Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to your chemistry class. In the last class, we started a fresh new chapter called solid state. Okay, in that we had discussed about what are the solids, what are the liquids, what are the gases. Then we had discussed how do we classify solids in different categories. We had done that on basis of we had done that on two bases. One was on the basis of arrangement of particles. The another one was on the basis of a bonding. Right? So before starting with today's class, let's quickly have some recall questions, and then we are going to move to the today's class. What we are going to study today. Okay. So if everybody is ready with the pen and notebook. So I'm starting the questions now. First question is on your screen. The question simply asks, crystalline solids have a range order. Is do crystalline solids have short range order or long range order? Okay. Yes. Quickly answer that. I'm starting the timer also. Very good, guys. Very good. Lot of you are answering correctly. Very good. Yes, guys. Quickly respond on the poll as well. Quickly respond on the poll. What is your correct answer? Last 5 seconds. Last 5 seconds. अरे सी कौन आंसर कर रहा है? सी तो ऑप्शन ही नहीं है. Okay, no problem. So let's quickly see the results of poll first, and then we are going to discuss this question. Okay. So as you can see, 30% of you are saying option A, 68% of you are saying option B, and 3%, I don't know who those 3% are saying it's option C, which is not even there. So let's see what is the correct answer. Okay. Okay. So if you talk about the crystalline on basis of arrangement, on basis of arrangement, then we used to classify into two categories. One was crystalline and another one was amorphous. One was crystalline, another was amorphous. Crystalline solids were used to be regular arrangement, and amorphous solids were irregular arrangement. So crystalline solids had regular arrangement while amorphous solids had irregular arrangement. So regular arrangement means the arrangement is regular for long range, or we could say the order is maintained for long range. Whereas if it is irregular, that means the order is maintained only for short range, right? The order is maintained only for short range. So crystalline solids, the order is maintained for long range. Hence, crystalline solids have a long range order, and the correct answer is option B, which is almost 70% of the answer correct. Very good, guys. If it is clear, quickly click on yes. If you are in the doubt, then quickly write in the chat section. Clear? Okay, then let's move forward to the next question. Then the next question on your screen is crystalline solids are called base solids, while amorphous solids are called as base solids. So which one is the correct option? Please you choose from below four options. Okay. Okay, Ashwini. Okay, Dhanamma. Okay, Parneet. Okay, Sneha, Satyam, Sujal. Okay, very good, guys. Very good. I'm getting a lot of answers, so I might miss someone's name. So, yeah, Gorang, Meghna, yes, Swami, Hers, Vinasri. Very good, guys. Very good. Very good. There's Sri, Om, Akash. So, guys, I'm launching the poll as well, so quickly respond on the poll now. Quickly respond on the poll. Yes, quickly respond on the poll. What is your correct answer? Last 5 seconds, yes. Last 5 seconds. Quickly respond on the poll. Chalo. Let's see how many of you answered A, how many of you answered B, and how many of you answered C and D. So as you can see, 6% of you are saying option A, 91% are saying option B, and 3% are saying option C, and none of you are saying option D. So let's see whether 91% of you are right or wrong. Okay, so again, if you classify the solids in crystalline and amorphous solids, then we know that the crystalline solids are called real solids, or we could also say true solids, whereas amorphous solids were called super cooled liquids, right? Super cooled liquids. That means what they are called? They are called pseudo solids. They are not actually solid, but they are behaving like solid. Hence, they are called pseudo solids. So, crystalline solids are called real or true solids, while amorphous solids are called as pseudo solids. So, correct answer is option B. Correct answer is option B. So, very good, guys. Almost 91% of you answered correctly. So that's really good. Very good. Keep it up. Okay, then before moving forward, let's quickly have a recap of the last class, what we had discussed in the last class, and then we are going to discuss about the today's class. Okay, so let's quickly have a recap. Okay, in the last class, we discussed what is matter and how do we classify matter. So you classify matter into three categories: solid, liquid, and gas. We had already discussed what is liquid, what is gas, what are the properties of liquid, what are the properties of gas in the state of matter, state of matter. And we had talked about the properties of solid, that they have definitive mass, volume, and shape. They have definite mass, definite volume, and a definite shape. We had also talked about they are brittle, sorry, not brittle. They are incompressible. They are incompressible in nature. Okay, incompressible and hard in nature. Then we had discussed that they have high melting point and boiling point, high melting point and boiling point. So we had discussed all of those things in the last class. Further on, we talked about how do we classify solids, classification of solids. Okay, so solids can be classified into different parts based on two categories. One is on the basis of particle arrangement, and another one is on the basis of chemical bonding. On the basis of chemical bonding means what type of chemical bonds are formed between the two molecules, okay, or two elements. On the basis of particle arrangement, we classify them into two categories: crystalline solids and amorphous. Right? Crystalline solids have a regular arrangement. They are called real solids because of this regular arrangement, whereas they have irregular arrangement. Hence, and since they have irregular arrangement, they are also called supercooled liquid. And since they are called supercooled liquid, they are also called pseudo solids. They are called pseudo solids. Moving forward, these crystalline solids have a sharp melting point, but they have a range of melting point. Moving further, crystalline solids crystalline solids have a regular shape of a surface, whereas they have irregular shape of a surface. Also, when we cut the crystalline solids, we get a smooth surface. On cutting, and here we get rough surface on cutting. Another property is that crystalline solids are anisotropic, whereas amorphous solids are isotropic. Okay, these are some properties of crystalline solids and amorphous solid, which we had already discussed in the last class. Okay, then we discussed about the classification of solids, which we generally do for crystalline solids. So classification of crystalline solids on the basis of bonding. On that, we divide them into four categories: ionic solids, covalent solids, molecular solids, and metallic solids. This molecular solid is further classified into two categories: non-polar, polar, and hydrogen bonded. Okay, this is how we classify these solids on the basis of chemical bonding. We are going to discuss about these solids in detail in today's class. That what are ionic solids, what are the covalent solids, what are the metallic solids, and what are the molecular solids, and how do we what are the properties of those solids, and how do we classify molecular solids into further three categories: non-polar, polar, and hydrogen bonded. We are going to discuss that in today's class. So before starting in today's class, if anybody has any issues so far, quickly write in the chat section. And if it's all clear, then quickly click on yes. Yes, guys, do that quickly. No doubts? Okay then, perfect, guys. वेरी गुड। चलो फिर आगे बढ़ते हैं, लर्निंग ऑब्जेक्ट की बात करते हैं। आज आज हम क्या सीखने वाले हैं? Okay, so the first thing, as I just told you, we are going to discuss about the classification of solid on the basis of chemical bonding. Means what are the ionic solid, what are the covalent solid, what are the metallic solid, what are the molecular solid, and what are the properties of those solids. We are going to discuss about that in today's class. Then we are going to talk about the crystal lattice. What is crystal lattice, what are the characteristics of crystal lattice, and how do we get a crystal lattice. Okay, we are going to discuss about all of that in today's class. So without wasting any further time, let's quickly jump into the okay. Before going for the classification, let's talk about two more properties. Just like we discussed about the isotropy and anisotropy, there are two more properties called isomorphism and polymorphism. So let's discuss about them first, and then we are going to move forward to the classification of the solids. So let's talk about the isomorphism. What is isomorphism? See, this iso means same. Iso means same. So one thing is clear that in the isomorphism, something is the same. Now, what is that something? What is same and what is not? Okay. So isomorphism is defined as such that if we have two different substances and their crystal lattice is same. So basically, two or more substances have same crystal structure, then this phenomena is called isomorphism. Okay, so if we have two or more substances and their crystal structure is same, then this phenomena is called isomorphism. Also, so what is necessary for this? What is necessary for isomorphism? For isomorphism, the atomic ratio, or should I say chemical composition ratio, should be same in the substances. So in these substances, the chemical composition should be or should have same ratio. Okay. For example, we have sodium fluoride and magnesium oxide, and they have same atomic ratio, 1 ratio. See, in NaF, I'm taking sodium and fluorine ratio, then that is 1:1. Similarly, if I'm taking magnesium oxide, then ratio of magnesium and oxide is 1:1. So atomic ratio in both sodium fluoride and magnesium oxide is 1:1. So their crystal structure is also same. Hence, these two show isomorphism. These two show isomorphism. Is that clear, guys? Is that clear? Yes or no? जल्दी से हाँ या ना पे क्लिक कर दो. Yes or no पे क्लिक करो. Okay, very good. Now, if isomorphism is clear, then let's talk about the polymorphism. What is polymorphism? Poly means many. Poly means many. So in isomorphism, we had two substances or more than two substances which had the same crystal structure. But in polymorphism, we will have one substance which is going to exhibit multiple crystal structures. So polymorphism is a phenomena where a single substance which exists in two or more forms is called polymorphism. Okay, the polymorphism or these forms are formed under different conditions. They are formed under different conditions. It's not like all of these forms of substance will be formed under same same condition. No, that's not going to happen. If that would have been the case, then they would have same crystal structure, but that is not the case in polymorphism. Okay, so in polymorphism, they are formed under different conditions. Polymorphism occurring in elements is called allotropy. Okay, so if polymorphism is sorry, if this phenomena is occurring in a substance, then it is called polymorphism. Whereas if this phenomena occurs in an element, then this is called allotropy. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with allotropy. What is allotropy? Right? Yes or no, guys? Yes or no? Let me repeat polymorphism again. अगर एक सिंगल सब्सटेंस है उसके दो या दो से अधिक फॉर्म है, ठीक है, तो वो सब्सटेंस है उसकी कैरेक्टरिस्टिक को बोलते हैं हम पॉलीमॉर्फिज्म. ठीक है, मतलब किसी सब्सटेंस के लिए दो या दो से अधिक फॉर्म रखना, जो फिनोमिना है, जो कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स है, उसको हम बोलते हैं पॉलीमॉर्फिज्म. अब जो डिफरेंट डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स बनती हैं, वो फॉर्म्स बनती हैं अगर उस सब्सटेंस को हम डिफरेंट डिफरेंट कंडीशंस पे ट्रीट करें. ठीक है, लेकिन अगर वही सेम चीज किसी एलिमेंट में अगर होता है तो हम उसको बोलते हैं एलोट्रोपी. So basically, allotropy and polymorphism are very similar to each other. The only difference is allotropy is defined for elements and polymorphism is defined for the substances. Okay, that's the only difference. If I'm talking about the example of polymorphism, then if you take the allotropic forms of carbon, we have three allotropic forms of carbon: graphite, diamond, and fullerene. Then they have different crystal structure and they have different properties. So they fall under the category of polymorphism. So example is carbon has three allotropic forms: graphite, diamond, and fullerene. Yes, Satyam, great. Very good. Clear है? If that much is clear, quickly click on yes. Guys, if you're in the doubt, then quickly write in the chat section. Clear? Okay, then let's move on. Now let's talk about the classification of solid on the basis of chemical bonding. Okay, classification based on the bonding. So we had already discussed about that in the last class. That crystalline solids are classified into four categories: ionic solid, covalent solid, metallic solid, and molecular solid. Now today we are going to discuss about the properties of each of these solid one by. So let's start with the ionic solid. Ionic solids are made of ions. Ionic solids are made of ions. The first thing. The second thing is they have electrostatic force of attraction between two particles. So what happens in the ionic solids is that there are different particles and the force of attraction between those particles is electrostatic force of attraction. That is why those particles are coming together to form a solid. Okay, they are very hard and brittle in nature. Okay, what does that mean? Being hard and brittle is that to if we have a particular solid molecule, then it's very difficult to break that molecule. But if we have a sample of a ionic solid, then that can easily be divided into more smaller samples of the same ionic solid. Okay, so it is hard and brittle in a nature. Since they have electrostatic force of attraction acting between two particles, their melting points and boiling points will be very high. This These ionic solids are electrically insulator in solid state. So basically, if you keep the ionic solid in a pure state and in solid state, then they are electrical insulators. The current will not flow through them. Okay, but the same ionic solids are very good conductor of electricity in their molten and aqueous state. Means if you melt these ionic solids, then they are going to be very good conductor of electricity. Also, if you dissolve them in water and form an aqueous solution, then that aqueous solution is also very good conductor of electricity. Okay, the reason behind that is to conduct the electricity, we need free electrons or free ions in our sample. अगर हमें कभी भी इलेक्ट्रिसिटी फ्लो करानी है, कभी भी अगर हमें क्या करना है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी फ्लो करानी है, तो क्या चाहिए हमें? या तो फ्री आयंस चाहिए या हमें फ्री इलेक्ट्रॉन्स चाहिए, राइट? अब अगर मेरे पास एक आयनिक सॉलिड है, वो सॉलिड स्टेट में, उसमें ना तो फ्री आयंस होंगे, क्योंकि सारे आयंस क्या होंगे, एक दूसरे के साथ में बॉन्डेड रहेंगे, ठीक है? एक दूसरे आयन के साथ में क्या होगा, बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग इलेक्ट्रोस्टैटिक फोर्स काम कर रहा होगा, इसकी वजह से कोई भी फ्री आयंस नहीं रहेंगे। आयनिक सॉलिड्स में आयन बनते हैं, जब आयन बनते हैं तो इलेक्ट्रॉन्स और फ्री नहीं घूमते हैं, उनको पहले से कोई ना कोई एक एटम है ले लेता है ताकि वो अपना एनायन बना सके, राइट? तो फ्री इलेक्ट्रॉन्स भी नहीं है, फ्री आयंस भी नहीं है, इसलिए सॉलिड स्टेट के अंदर तो वो क्या करेंगे, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी को फ्लो नहीं करने देंगे, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी के क्या बन जाएंगे, इंसुलेटर बन जाएंगे। लेकिन जब हम उसको मेल्ट करते हैं तो क्या होता है, वो सेम आयंस अब एक दूसरे से दूर दूर हो गए, और जब दूर दूर हो जाएंगे तो उनके बीच में इलेक्ट्रोस्टैटिक फोर्स अट्रैक्शन डिक्रीज करेगा, जिससे आयंस स्लाइटली फ्री हो जाएंगे, और जब फ्री आयंस होंगे तो वो इजीली इलेक्ट्रिसिटी को कंडक्ट कर सकते हैं। सिमिलरली इन aqueous state also, ions break down into their solid breaks down into their corresponding aqueous ions. So if we have NaCl as an ionic solid and we dissolve that NaCl into water, it is going to form Na plus aqueous and Cl minus aqueous, and which is very good conductor of electricity. Okay, so example of ionic solids are NaCl, CaF2, cesium chloride, okay, magnesium chloride. All these are the examples of ionic solid. So if you are clear on the ionic solid, then quickly click on yes. If you have any doubt, then quickly write in the chat section. Yes, guys, clear quickly. The name brittle is called bhangur. In Hindi, it's called bhangur, which can easily be broken. Okay, brittle is basically a particular substance which is hard but can easily be broken. Okay, clear? Okay. This is NaCl. See here in N ion, and bigger ions, anions are the Cl minus ions. Okay. Now let's talk about the covalent solids. In the covalent solids, the covalent bond is present. So basically, what happens is in the ionic solids are formed from the ions, and they have electrostatic force of attraction. Whereas in covalent solids, the covalent bond is present between continuous particles. Okay, covalent bond is present in a continuous particles. Clear? Such solids are very hard and brittle. Covalent solids are also very hard and they are also very brittle. Okay, they can also be easily broken down. But the good thing is not all the covalent solids are brittle. Not all the covalent solids are brittle. Some are very hard and they cannot be broken easily. Okay, we'll talk about those also. What are such examples? They also have extremely high melting point because the covalent bond is present between two particles and the covalent bond is also very strong. So they will have very high melting point. Covalent solids are generally insulator and they do not conduct electricity because they do not have any free ions or any free electrons. Neither in their solid state, neither in their molten state. चाहे molten state ले लें चाहे हम solid state ले लें, जो covalent solids हैं जनरली क्या होते हैं, करंट के इंसुलेटर होते हैं, करंट को कंडक्ट नहीं करेंगे. Again I'm saying generally, not saying always, means there are some exceptions which are electrical conductors. The examples of covalent solids are diamond, silicon carbide, graphite. So if I talk about the diamond, then diamond is really hard and it's not brittle. And I said that some covalent solids are not brittle, and diamond is one of those examples. Graphite is a covalent solid, but still it conducts electricity. Still it conducts electricity. That's why I'm saying they are generally insulator and do not conduct electricity. But I'm not saying they are always insulator. Okay, clear? Diamond is made of atoms. Similarly, graphite is also made of carbon atoms, but they are two allotropes of carbon. Okay, they are two allotropes of carbon. Silicon carbide is nothing but SiC. This is SiC, silicon carbide. This is the polymer of carbon, or should I say, this is the allotrope of carbon, and diamond is also allotrope of carbon. Clear? Graphite is electrical conductor. Okay. This is the structure of graphite. This is the structure of graphite. And in this structure, if you see these dotted bondeds, okay, these dark lines are the complete covalent bonds. They will not be broken, hence there will be no current flow because of these. But since these dotted lines here, as you can see, are weak bonds, they are weak bonds, hence they can be broken, and therefore the graphite can conduct clear? The number, see, like ionic solids are made of ions because their constituent particles are ions, which are cations and anions. But if you go back to the chemical bonding, there is one more bond called covalent bond. Means we had four type of bonds there, right? Four type of strong bonds: uh, ionic bond, covalent bond, coordinate bond, and metallic bond. Right? So in ionic bond, the electron transfer used to happen. Whereas in sharing. Okay. So if we have multiple elements which share electrons with each other and they form a large complex, then that is a solid which is called a covalent solid. Okay, Amma? Clear? Okay, then let's move forward to the metallic solid. Then we had discussed about the covalent, we had discussed about the ionic solid. Let's discuss about the metallic solid now. Metallic solids are those in which metallic bond is present. So in metallic solids, metallic bonds are present. Here, collection of positive ions are surrounded by and held together by sea of free electrons. So in metallic solids, what happens is we have some positive ions which are surrounded and held together by lot of free electrons. Okay, those free electrons are surrounding our positive ions and keeping them together. Otherwise, they are going to otherwise they are going to feel a lot of repulsion force and will go far away from each other. Okay, but those free electrons are helping in two ways. One, to held these positively ions together, and another one is in flow of electricity. So that means the metallic solids are very good conductor of electricity. They are very high electrical and thermal conductivity because of free electrons. Clear? And the examples of are iron, copper, aluminium. These are the examples of metallic solids. These metallic solids are also lustrous, malleable, and ductile in a nature. Okay, malleable means the one which can such a substance or such a material which can be broken, not just exactly broken, but which can be cut down into very small parts or we could make very things. Clear? If we have a very new surface, have a shining nature to it. Okay, clear? Then yes, Soumya. If we can make thin sheets, then that is called malleability. Yeah. So there are these metallic solids are malleable. Means we can make very thin sheets of these metals, and these are lustrous. Lustrous means the newly made surface of these solids is illuminating or is very bright in nature. Okay, clear? The examples are iron, copper, silver, gold. All these are the examples of metallic solid. And that was clear, guys. Quickly click on yes. If you're in doubt, then quickly write in the chat section. Okay, then. Then let's move forward to the molecular solid. As ductile means which sorry substances which from which we can form wires. Okay, can form wires. Clear? So see, this is how metallic solids are present. We have some cation and there are some free C of electron, sea of free electrons which are holding these cations together and also flowing, so uh, they can be oh sorry they can help in conducting the electricity. Okay, coming to the molecular solid are made of molecules, means the constituent particles of molecular solids are different molecules which are attracted together by weak van der Waals forces. Okay, molecular solids are made of molecules which are attracted towards each other due to van der Waals force of attraction. And since we know there are five type of van der Waals force attraction, which is ion dipole, dipole, ion induced dipole induced dipole, and induced dipole. Okay. Now here ion dipole is not going to be there because the molecules cannot have charge. So ion dipole will not be there. Similarly, ion induced dipole won't be there. So there will be one will be dipole, one will be induced dipole. That's polar molecules and non-polar molecules. There will be no dipole induced dipole because since molecular solid are made of only one type of molecules, so it cannot be like one molecule. The same molecules can behave like polar molecules also and non-polar molecule also. So that cannot be the case. Hence, dipole into dipole cannot be there. But one more type of molecular solid is hydrogen bonded molecular solid. Because there is one more weak force of attraction, which is hydrogen bonding. Okay, so molecular solids are classified into three categories. Sorry, examples of molecular solids are carbon dioxide, solid CO2, and solid I2. And solids are classified into three categories: non-polar molecular solids, polar molecular solids, and hydrogen bonded molecular solids. Okay, now let's talk about the non-polar molecular solids, or the properties of non-polar molecular solids. क्या properties होते हैं, कैसे बनते हैं, let's talk about it. So non-polar either atoms like helium and argon or and I. Okay, Satyam. Do you have any doubts, Satyam? Any doubts, or should we move forward? Property of molecular bond. Okay, are you talking about the bond between? Oh, clear. Okay, clear. Okay, then if you are talking about the bond between two molecules, then that bond is going to be van der Waals force of attraction. Okay, clear? Chalo. So, as we are talking about non-polar molecular solids, non-polar molecular solids consist or contain atoms like helium or argon, or non-polar molecules like hydrogen gas, Cl2 gas, I2, H2 molecule, Cl2 molecule, I2 molecule, O2 molecule, molecules like those. Okay, so the non-polar molecular solids are made of substances or molecules which are non-polar in nature. Okay, and because they are non-polar in nature, the force attraction with them is due to London dispersion force. So there will be weak dispersion or London dispersion force acting between the two molecules. Now, since that force is very weak, these solids are very soft and there is no charge, no polarity on the molecule, so there will be non-conductor of electricity. So, non-polar molecular solids are soft and a non-conductor of electricity. They have low melting points because the force of attraction between the molecule is very less, so that can be easily broken and they can easily be or they can easily be separated out and converted into liquid and gas. Clear? The example for that is I2. Example for that is I2. Solid CO2 as well. Solid CO2 is also an example of non-polar molecular solid. Clear? If that is clear, then let's move forward to the polar molecular solid. Talking about the polar molecular solid, they consist molecules which are polar in nature, like HCl, SO2, okay, which have polar covalent bond. So polar molecular solids are formed by molecules like HCl, SO2, which have polar covalent bonds. They have strong dipole-dipole interaction, hence they will have slightly higher melting point and boiling point compared to the non-polar molecular solid. They are also soft and non-conductor of electricity, okay, because the force of attraction is still weak van der Waals forces, not the strong bond. But since the uh, van der Waals force acting this time around is dipole-dipole interaction, which is stronger than the London dispersion force, hence melting point of polar molecular solid is higher than the non-polar molecular solid. Generally, they are gas or liquid at room temperature, but they can be converted into solid at low temperatures. Example for that is the very good example for that is ice. Okay, ice is in liquid state at room temperature, whereas sorry, not an ice. Ice is an example of hydrogen bonding. A very good example of SO2. SO2 is gas at room temperature, but if you cool down SO2, then it will convert into solid. Similarly, HCl is gas at room temperature, but it will become a solid at lower temperatures. Clear? As you can see in HCl, there is a polar covalent bond because of electronegativity difference between hydrogen and chlorine. And that is clear. Then let's move forward to the hydrogen bonded molecular solid. Hydrogen bonded molecular solids are formed from molecules which have hydrogen bonded with high electronegativity atoms like oxygen, nitrogen, and fluorine. Okay, so molecules of these solids contain polar covalent bond between hydrogen and either fluorine or oxygen or nitrogen atom. Because of that, there is very high dipole-dipole attraction force, or which is also called as hydrogen bond, which is present here. They are also non-conductor of electricity because there is no free ions, no free charge present. They are volatile liquids or soft solids under room temperature, but temperature or at lower temperature they are solid in nature. Very good example is ice, which is a volatile liquid at room temperature but is solid at 0 degrees Celsius. Example is H2O, which is ice. Clear? So these are the classification of solids on the basis of arrangement of particles and then classification of crystalline solids on the basis of bonding. If anybody has any doubt so far in the classification part, then quickly write in the chat section. If it is clear, then quickly click on yes, so that we can move forward. Yes, guys, do that quickly. You can click on yes, or if you have any doubt, then quickly write in the chat section. Okay, Lakshmi, volatile liquid means liquids which are volatile in nature means if you keep a liquid at a room temperature and the liquid can easily form the vapors at that temperature, then that is called volatile liquid. Okay, there could be two types of substance. One which can convert into vapor at a given temperature are called volatile substances, and one which does not gets converted into vapor is known as or are known as non-volatile substances. Okay, so volatile liquid means liquids which can form vapor easily at a room temperature. Okay, clear, Lakshmi? Okay then. And we are going to discuss a lot of this volatile about this volatile and non-volatile liquids in the next chapter called solution. Okay, चलिए फिर आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's talk about the crystal lattice. What is a crystal lattice? Crystal lattice is a regular 3D arrangement of points in space. If I arrange regular 3D regular sorry, if I arrange points in space in regular 3D arrangement, then the uh, resultant structure is known as crystal lattice. So let's say I'm keeping these particles like this. If I'm making this regular arrangement of particles, then this arrangement is called nothing but crystal lattice. This is called crystal lattice. Okay, clear? Now, what are the characteristics of a crystal lattice? What are the characteristics of a crystal lattice? So the crystal lattice have two characteristics. The first one is lattice point. So each point in this lattice, these points are called crystal lattice. Sorry, lattice points. These points are called lattice points. Clear? Means okay. To explain it better, I'm sure you guys might have seen the egg carrot, right? You guys might have seen the egg carrot. There's a carrot in which a lot of eggs are placed. You will tell me whether you have seen that or not. अंडों का कैरेट देखा कि नहीं देखा? कभी शॉप पे देखा होगा ना, एक कैरेट में अंडे रखे हुए हैं, राइट? वेरी गुड. तो अब जो अंडे है ना, उनको हमें पॉइंट मान लेते हैं. ठीक है। तो सबसे पहले तो जो सारा सभी जो अंडे जितने तुम देख रहे हो उन सारे अंडों को अगर तुम एक साथ कंबाइन कर दो तो वो तो हमारा हो गया क्रिस्टल लेटिस। वो तो हमारा क्या हो गया क्रिस्टल लेटिस। और जिस जिस पॉइंट्स पे वो अंडे रखे हुए हैं वो पॉइंट्स हमारे क्या कहलाएंगे, लेटिस पॉइंट। ठीक है। जहां जहां पर अंडे रखे हुए वो पॉइंट्स क्या कहलाएंगे, लेटिस पॉइंट। अब किसने अंडों का कैरेट नहीं देखा तो किसने उसका देखा होगा, टोमेटो का कैरेट देखा होगा, पोटेटो का कैरेट देखा होगा, राइट। एप्पल्स का देखा होगा, मैंगोज का देखा होगा, किसी का देखा होगा, राइट। तो उसमें जो फ्रूट्स जो है या जो वेजिटेबल्स हैं उन जहां जिस जिस पॉइंट पे रखे हुए हैं, उन पॉइंट्स को तो हम क्या बोलेंगे, लेटेस्ट पॉइंट। और जो पूरा जो स्ट्रक्चर बन रहा है उसकी हेल्प से उस पूरी स्ट्रक्चर को हम बोलेंगे क्रिस्टल लेटिस। ठीक है। The second characteristics of crystal lattice is the geometry of lattice. अब अगर तुम उन लेटिस पॉइंट को एक स्ट्रेट लाइन में ज्वाइन करते चलो, अब अगर तुम उसका करो लेटिस पॉइंट को एक स्ट्रेट लाइन में ज्वाइन करते चलो तो ज्योमेट्री बनेगी, उस ज्योमेट्री को हम बोलते हैं ज्योमेट्री ऑफ लेटिस। उसको क्या बोलते हैं, ज्योमेट्री ऑफ लेटिस। क्लियर है? Click on yes if that is clear. If you have any doubt, then quickly write in the chat section. ओके देन, वेरी गुड। चलो फिर आगे बढ़ते हैं। अब जो क्रिस्टल लेटिस है उन्हीं से रिलेटेड एक और चीज है जो है यूनिट सेल। अब देखो ये तुम्हारे सामने क्या है, एक क्रिस्टल लेटिस, राइट। ये क्या है कि क्रिस्टल लेटिस। मैं एक बार इसको जो डॉटेड डॉट्स हैं उनको मैं इरेज कर रहा हूँ। हाँ, अभी यहाँ पे देखो क्या हो रहा है। ये सारे तुम्हें जो भी ये डार्क रीजन दिख रहा है और जो शेडो रीजन दिख रहा है ना, सारे रीजन को तुम मिलाओगे तो पूरा रीजन क्या है, वो एक क्रिस्टल लेटिस है। इसमें से अगर मैं इस पार्ट को ले रहा हूँ, डार्क वाले पार्ट को अगर मैं ले रहा हूँ, सिर्फ डार्क वाले को, या जिसको मैं अभी येलो कर रहा हूँ, अगर मैं सिर्फ उस पार्ट की अगर मैं बात करूँ तो ये पार्ट मेरा क्या है, एक यूनिट सेल है। इस पूरे लेटिस का एक यूनिट सेल है। तो ये यूनिट सेल क्यों कहलाया, यूनिट सेल एक्चुअली में क्या होता है, चलो उसके बारे में बात करते हैं। व्हाट इज यूनिट सेल? What is it? Unit cell. Unit cell is the smallest portion of a crystal lattice. If we repeat that in different direction, then we can form an entire lattice. Okay. So what is unit cell? Unit cell is the smallest portion of a crystal lattice, which can be repeated into all directions so that we can get our entire lattice. And that smallest portion should consist all the properties of the entire lattice. The smallest portion should consist all the properties of entire lattice. Means what will be the radius ratio of particles, what will be the melting point, what will be the boiling point of the cell, what will be the force of attraction, how much is, how many sorry, how much strong the force of attraction is there. All these characteristics will be same for the unit cell also and for the crystal lattice also. ओके। यूनिट सेल क्या है, पूरे क्रिस्टल लेटिस का वो छोटे से छोटा भाग है जिसको अगर मैं हर एक डायरेक्शन में रिपीट करता जाऊं तो मैं अपना जो लेटिस था उसको दोबारा फॉर्म कर सकता। तो वो क्या कहलाएगा, यूनिट सेल कहलाएगा। ओके। नाउ व्हाट आर द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ यूनिट सेल? A unit cells have two characteristics. two characteristics. One is dimensions along three edges. Means what is the length of three edges. So see, this is a unit. This is a crystal lattice and this is a unit. Let me change the color first. This is a crystal lattice and this is a unit cell. Okay. So in this unit cell, this length, this is the direction along x-axis. So this length is, let's say, a. This is direction, let's say, along z-axis. So this is length c, and this is direction along y-axis. So this is length b. This is length b. Clear है? अब क्या होता है, एक तो हो गया डायमेंशंस अलोंग थ्री एजेस, मींस एक्स एक्सिस के अलोंग, वाई एक्सिस के अलोंग और जेड एक्सिस के अलोंग जो एज है उनकी लेंथ क्या है। एक कैरेक्टरिस्टिक तो वो हो गया यूनिट सेल का। दूसरा कैरेक्टरिस्टिक होता है कि इन तीनों जो एज हैं उनके बीच का एंगल क्या है। तो बेसिकली देयर आर थ्री एंगल्स कॉल्ड अल्फा, बीटा एंड गामा. So alpha is the angle between edge B and C. So this angle here, this angle right here is called alpha, right? So let me erase this one first, and okay, I'm erasing this. So let me show in this one where A, B, and C is already written. So this is C, this is B. So this angle here, this angle is alpha. Beta is the angle between A and C. So this is angle beta. And gamma is the angle between A and B. So this is angle gamma. So we have two characteristics. One is dimension along the three edges, and second is angles between the edges. What are the angles between those edges? So we have three dimensions, that is A, B, and C, and we have three angles, alpha, beta, and gamma. And depending on the values of these A, B, C, and these values of alpha, beta, and gamma, we get different types of unit cells. We get different types of unit cells. So when we are going to talk about the classification of unit cells, we are going to classify unit cells into two categories. One is on the basis of the parameters. Okay, these are called unit cell parameters. This A, B, C, and this alpha, beta, gamma, these combined are called unit cell parameters. These are combinedly called unit cell parameters. Okay, means to completely define a unit cell, we need only these six parameters: A, B, and C, also alpha, beta, and gamma. These only these six parameters are required to know all the information regarding a unit cell. Okay. Now, unit cells are classified into two categories. Sorry, classified on the two bases. First is on the basis of these parameters. The second one is on the basis of particle arrangement. Yes, Satyam, that is the meaning of unit cell. That is the meaning of unit cell. Means if we have, let's say, value of A, B, and C something, and similarly alpha, beta, and gamma is also a particular value, then you can take any unit cell in the entire lattice, and those A, B, C, and those alpha, beta, gamma will remain same. Okay, clear? Okay, so let's talk about the classification of unit cell on the basis of a particle arrangement. So on the basis of particle arrangement, unit cells are classified into two categories: centered unit cell and primitive unit cell. On the basis of a particle arrangement, unit cells are classified into categories: centered unit cell and primitive unit cell. Centered unit cell means where some particles are present at the center of the unit cell as well, and primitive means where the particles are present only on the corners of the unit cell. Only on the corners of unit cell. Now the centered unit cell is further classified into three categories. That is body centered unit cell, face centered unit cell, and end centered unit cell. Body centered means particles are at the corner plus at the center of unit cell. Particles are at the corner plus at the center of unit cell. Face centered is at the corner, that is definitely will be there, plus at the face center. Of unit cell. If there are four faces in a unit cell, then these particles are also present at the center of all those four faces. If there are 8 faces, these particles will be present at all 8, will be present at the center of all 8 faces. If there are 6 faces, particles will be present at the center of all 6 faces. Okay. End centered is where particles are present at the corner plus at the center of two opposite faces. Two opposite faces of a unit cell. What does that mean? Is सारे कॉर्नर पे तो ऑलरेडी पार्टिकल्स हैं, उसके साथ साथ में कहाँ पे हैं, दो ऐसे फेस के सेंटर पे पार्टिकल्स हैं जो एक दूसरे के ठीक ऑपोजिट है. तो क्या है, एक दूसरे के डायरेक्टली ऑपोजिट है. तो उसको हम क्या बोलेंगे, एंड सेंटर्ड यूनिट सेल बोलेंगे. Now, if that is clear, quickly click on yes. If you have any doubt, then quickly write in the chat section. Yes, guys, do that quickly. जल्दी से करो. समझ में आया तो यस पे क्लिक करो. कोई डाउट है तो इसी चैट सेक्शन में लिखो. Okay, then if there are no more doubt, that's very good. So in the next class, we'll start from the classification of unit cell on the basis of parameter. Then we are going to talk about the Bravais lattice. What exactly is Bravais lattice? And then we are going to move into the characteristics of unit cells, in which we are going to talk about the radius ratio of cation and anion. Sorry, before that, we are going to talk about the ratio of edge length and particle radius in different unit cells. Okay. So we're discussing about that in the next class, which is tomorrow. Okay. So be prepared for that. And now, if you don't have any doubt, then I'm launching the feedback poll. So quickly respond on the poll. Yes, guys.